Experts say cultural expectation and individual aspiration are often the source of tensions and frustration between parents and their children, particularly girls in the diaspora. On this week's episode of Our Voices, we'll hear young African women talk about their quest for educational and career achievements in the West while trying to fulfill their parents' wish to preserve family heritage, culture, and religion. Hello and welcome to Our Voices. I am Oriani Tangishaka. Here with me is my co-hosts Jeannie Niwa and Siminish Yakoye. Hello, ladies.
Hey.
We are talking about family pressure, family expectations versus your personal aspirations, especially as girls. Did you feel that pressure from your parents in picking which career to go to, or which path in life
You
to
mean
take?
growing up in the diaspora?
Growing up in the diaspora, yes.
Yeah, I definitely felt it. Also, I feel like the bigger the community, your community is wherever you live, it's easier to accept your own culture. You know, it's easier to be a Congolese girl in France. It's easier to be a Nigerian girl in America. So I did feel pressure, but in my family is a little, you can tell that people are more happy if you follow, a lawyer path, but
Like
the traditional, anything else is okay.
They question it.
Yeah, journalist, sure. So, yeah.
But just don't become a singer or something like that. What about you, Lily? Did you feel the same way, even though,
I mean, family pressure or influences everywhere, right? But I didn't grow up in the diaspora. I grew up in Ethiopia. I came as an adult to the US, so I didn't have that pressure maybe you guys or other girls will have growing up in the diaspora. But, my families constantly remind me to make sure that my son knows his culture. So I try to help him understand the culture, be part of cultural activities,
Would you do that if it was a girl child?
It would have been
pressure?
more, maybe.
See, girls are pressured more.
Yeah, they're precious.
Okay.
Suzanne Barry, a young Guinea and Ivory Coast American, is the filmmaker of Le Choisi, or The Chosen One, a documentary that tells the stories of first-generation Africans from Europe and America who are pursuing their dreams in various fields. VOA's Kali Abdu spoke to her.
In the film Le Choisi, or The Chosen One, we meet four individuals who share a common background. They are all first-generation Africans who have moved to Europe or America to chase their dreams. They are Fokias, a rap group from Paris that has become one of the most popular acts in France. Lina Chaban, a soccer player from Algeria who plays for Olympique Lyonnais in the French Ligue 1. Mimi Yeboah, a fashion designer from Ghana who has launched her own clothing line in New York. And Baba Diop, a supermodel from Senegal who has graced the covers of Vogue and GQ.
I can't stop thinking about how similar we actually all are.
Filmmaker Susan Barry talked to me about the inspiration behind the title of the film.
At first, it started off with being like, okay, African people, I feel like are chosen because that's where I'm from. But in my journey, I realized everybody's chosen, and being chosen is just something that happens in inception. Like, we're not really, you can learn a skill, but a lot of us are really born with abilities, whether that is to sing, whether that is to play a sport, whether that is to have a natural eye for design, or if it's like me, storytelling, and I think when you know those things about yourself, you have to follow it because it's a gift, and that's what I think it means to be chosen. But I think the real magic happens when you choose it back, and then everything becomes golden.
La plupart que personnes.
Suzanne Barry, who is also a first-generation African from Guinea and Ivory Coast, says she wanted to make a film that celebrates the individual journeys of people from her community.
The way I felt that it could inspire people was just by them literally telling their story, like what they wanted to be in the beginning, how things change. Everybody's journey in the film is different as to how they got to it. I'm also really big on highlighting, everybody's path is very different as to how you get to it.
Le Choisi serves as a cultural representation of the immigrant experience on the two sides of the Atlantic and acts as a guide for future generations in overcoming the challenges of life.
You're chosen to do something, then there'll be a way and you'll find it.
So you can definitely see in this documentary how young people, you know, have a lot of pressure in the diaspora.
Yeah.
So let's welcome Susan Barry, who is now joining us via Skype from Texas to briefly discuss with us her experience of interviewing young women who experience some of the pressures and expectation we are talking about today. Susan, welcome, and thank you for being on Our Voices today.
Thank you for having me.
So what made you look into this unique subject as your first topic to tackle and as a documentary producer? Was it from a personal experience?
Yes, so in 2020, I was graduating from college, and in my undergrad, I was studying to become a doctor. I studied biology and journalism, and I just fell in love with journalism throughout my process. And then when it came time for graduation, I had to make a decision, like whether I was going to pursue either one. And my heart was just really with journalism, and it was really with storytelling. And at that time, there were no job prospects. There were no options because we were in a pandemic. But I still decided to take the chance on myself. And I decided, I was like, I'm just going to make something. And I've never made a film before.
Oh, wow.
But when I thought about what my first topic would be, I was like, I'm going to talk about this like pressure that I'm feeling with having to make this decision, because I knew it was affected by the people that were around me and wanting to make them happy.
Wow. Wow, sounds you went from biology to the video producer, documentary producer. That's definitely two different directions. Well, now let's now listen to some of your conversation with some of the young ladies you interview, and then go to your perspective on what goes on in the mind of young women in the diaspora, because it seems like there's a lot of similarities.
In the beginning, my parents had mixed feelings about it. Yeah, my mom was telling me, you're going to be around only boys and everything. It's hard to adapt, but today it helped forge a certain character.
So, as a girl, what were some of the difficulties that you encountered?
At the beginning, it was complicated. It was complicated because, oh, it's a girl. Girls don't play soccer, but today we are here to show that girls do play soccer. In fact, when I play football, it's incredible. I can't explain it. You know, it's really incredible. There is the sensation, the emotion, it's everything you see. Football is my entire life. It's important to do what we love in our life every day. Today, it's my job to play football. I train every day, and that's all I do, and it's super important. You wake up in the morning, of course, sometimes maybe it won't go the way you want to. You might be tired. Maybe you want to play. Maybe you might be injured, but it's your job. And you know, in any case, I get up and I love it. I love it.
What America does have is like open-mindedness, I think. It allows you to be free somehow. Because in Ghana, it's totally different. Right. They're so closed-minded over there.
Absolutely.
People can't really dream over there. Like, they think everything is impossible. But over here, like for some reason, or because you see a lot of things here, a lot of things are possible.
Right.
You can see that things are possible.
Yeah, and
when your child comes to you and be like, oh, I want to be a garbage man. Like you're thinking, what? But you gotta let them be free to even explore that. But it allows them to be comfortable and confident when they grow up, so that when they explore, it's not from fear.
How do you think parents can build like a creative confidence in their child?
Allowing their children to explore. So it was a good idea putting me in Parsons. A better idea would be like actually communicating with the child about whatever they're exploring. Stop overthinking your child's life. Stop thinking your child's life is your life. Like all the suffering you had, stop trying to project that onto the child and allow the child to be a child and explore and be there for them through that exploration. Absolutely. So that they can actually like soak in information with you and not just like hiding it from you because they just feel like you can't understand where they're going. Just be there for the child and know that the child has their own life.
Wow, it sounds like young women just want to be heard, but about what they want to do in life. Now, Suzanne, did you do the documentary mostly because you wanted them to express themselves, or for the parents to actually change behaviors?
Both at the same time. I wanted the kids to feel empowered. I wanted them to feel like it's not the end of the world if you just pursue what you want to do. But I also wanted the parents to, maybe if they didn't even have that awareness of how they were making their children feel, to now be aware of that and kind of giving them the tools to learning how to foster a talent in their child that they may not completely understand in the beginning.
So Suzanne, we just heard a snippet of some young ladies of African descent, as Oriane said. How hard is it to balance family expectation and self-determination? And what's the best way to handle, in your view?
It's really difficult. That's a really great question. It's really difficult because us being Africans, our family is everything to us. Our culture is very family oriented. So it's really difficult to balance it. But I think the way you can deal with that is just if you know that you're doing everything for the right reasons. And even if it isn't something that people understand, you kind of have to let go of that, because we are a new generation and we're inspiring a generation of kids that are coming after us in Africa. So we're kind of like that buffer, and we have to just be that trial. And I think we just have to get over the fact that people might not understand.
That's the point that you say it's a new generation. But when you leave the continent, when these parents leave the continent, do you feel like there's a different pressure on boys than girls? When it comes to career choice?
I don't really know if there is that much of a difference, especially being a first generation. I think they expect it of us both. I think it's a little different in Africa for women and boys, because women, there's that option of, you could just like marry into something stable for yourself. But in America, it really isn't like that. Almost everybody works. It's like almost every household is like a 2-income household. And they really just expect their boys and their girls to go to school and pick a career that is stable.
Wow, Suzanne, that's a really great topic that you really tackled, and we really wish you the best. It's really inspiring, and we want to hear more from young women and what they think. We'll have to take a pause right here. I'd like to thank this filmmaker, Suzanne Berry, for joining us. It's time for a quick break. When we return, we'll continue this discussion with a licensed independent clinical social worker in the Washington, D.C. area. Mrs. Osato Egunman says you can respect your family and still honor your authenticity. More on this when we return. And as usual, we want to hear from you, your thoughts on our social media platforms at VOA Africa. We are on Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter. Use the hashtag VOA Our Voices. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linor Moudou, in Washington every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
You're watching VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. Thank you so much for joining us each week right here on Red Carpet. We bring you the latest in
Welcome back. You are tuned into Our Voices. We are looking into the career paths for young African women in the diaspora while being encouraged to maintain their culture, traditions, and or religions. To better understand diaspora family dynamics and some solutions to tensions that may rise between parents and daughters that aspire to achieve unconventional careers, we have invited Ms. Osato Ogunwan, a licensed independent clinical social worker here in Washington, D.C. Ms. Osato, welcome to Our Voices.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Yes, it is such a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you. So as we heard, some issues like stress, anxiety, depression in Black women are, raised or described as crises hidden in plain sight. So how can, diaspora parents make sure to balance between advice and demand?
Right, that's a wonderful question. The first thing I would say is trusting your children to make the right decisions, right? Your children are looking up to you for advice, right? You're guiding their actions, making sure that before you ask for demands, before you state your expectation, you really need to understand what they're going to. I would also say curiosity, right? Operating from a place of curiosity where you're able to view your children's behavior in their world, right, in a way that will give you more understanding. Because the less you operate from curiosity and the more you operate from frustration or making assumptions, your view becomes more narrow, right, and limits your vision of your children and so forth. And it lessens the rapport, it lessens the trust building, right? And the last point I would make is understanding that there is space for both your aspirations, your dreams for your children, as well as what they aspire to be in life, right? It doesn't have to be one way or the other way. Okay. It doesn't have to be my way or the highway. Yeah.
Wow. Now, what about a young lady who wants to pursue something totally different from what her parents envisioned for her? What should she do? What would you advise her?
I would advise her to seek community. Community is very important, right? If you're looking to strive off the normal path of what your parents expect, right? Look for folks who have the same experiences as you do, who've gone through the process, who failed, who succeeded, and who have their own stories to tell, right? Being able to find community and find mentorship in that setting will allow you to talk to your parents about your dreams without feeling a sense of shame or guilt.
That's very good. I mean, it seems like you really just have to be able to stick with what you're doing and, still trust your instinct. Right. Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask the same question I asked before. Do you feel like there's a difference, when it comes to pressure? Do you, with your experience, when it comes to pressure on girls than, on boys?
Yes, absolutely. There is a difference. There is a large difference. I feel like with young women, we are expected to have certain roles, right? Our parents only see us as the daughter or, you're a sister to someone versus I'm my own person. I have my own identity. I have my own agency, right? Versus with young men, you can do whatever, right? Your parents see you outside of the roles that they've placed. And I think it's important to make that distinction.
Wow. As parents also, they also need to be able to open up and be willing to see that there is something maybe they didn't grow up with, but there is other opportunities their child might, tap into. So what kind of advices do you give or services do you give both to parents and children growing up in the diaspora?
Yes, it's a good question. So for parents, I provide coaching, right, on how to really understand the context of what your child is going through. Because it's a new generation, it's a new year. Things are way different, and our parents come from a generation that, you know, has certain habits or has certain experiences and understanding that they can't project onto their kids. Right, their kids are living different lives, absolutely, right? And as for young women and children, for me, I help them understand their emotions, right? Why they're feeling the way they do. Oftentimes, this is a result of childhood experiences, whether good or bad, right? Helping them figure out, what type of life do I want to live as a young person, right? And my current actions at the moment, are they moving me towards that life, or are they moving me away from that life?
I think also there is time for mistakes or time for building, because when young people go into college, they're 17, 18, 19, so there's always, I think, room that parents don't see. Parents think like, you know, is this one or else you fail. I think parents should have that view that they can do this, and then if it doesn't work, they can do something else, right?
Yes, allow your kids to make mistakes, right? Give them that agency, because if you keep preventing them for, you know, exploring, if they make a mistake, they're not going to go to you for help because they're scared, right? And it reduces their confidence in being able to handle adult things that come up.
Right. And parents, I think, that are often struggling to see that there's a different world. The technology has changed, the world has changed. There's so many opportunities in the West for these young people. I mean, they've been saying, like, you know, you put us out here to see all of these things, and then you don't want us to pick. So once they come into the diaspora,
the balance, like for example, the child could be going on a wrong path. How do you bring them back? Like, what's the best way of being there for them or assisting them without scaring them away?
That's a good one too. Yeah.
So I would say going back to curiosity, right? Some of the ways to practice curiosity is by asking the right questions, right? Such as, how come you feel like that? Right? What is happening for you, right? I see that you're having difficulty with this. How can I provide support, right? Because if you're coming from it from that direction, they know, okay, you might not agree with me, but you have some understanding. You want to help me, so let me tell you what's going on, so we can problem solve together as a team, not me versus my parent.
Right, because a lot of time you hear the parents be like, you are going to be what? you want to be a rapper? You're going to be a doctor. So a lot of African parents, it's just like that. It's like, this is just not going to happen in this family. We're going to have a doctor, we're going to have a lawyer, we're going to have, you know, the traditional careers. So do you also help families together, mom and dad, the parent and the daughter, to sit together, that kind of sessions?
Yes. I think also the challenge when it comes to family is the culture is not about conversation in African, African or, you know, different culture. It's about telling. We don't sit down. We don't, you know, we don't evaluate your feelings because they haven't gone through that. So it's also, you know, what you think, you're the expert.
And I think also the flip side is that children should also trust parents. My mother helped me pick my careers, and I said, okay, if she thinks I can do this, I can, you know, I did it. And I did social work, and then I also did journalism because my dad was also, I came into journalism. I think children should also trust their parents. How is that journey when you're talking to them about understanding what their parents want from them? Is probably from experience of what they seen the children grow up to have as skills or as character. You know, are the young people, the young girls open to hearing their parents when you talk to them?
Sometimes, you know, when they come to me, they're already coming from a place of shame and fear, so it's hard for them to really hear the opposite side. But I encourage both parents and children, especially for children, you know, give your parents grace. They're doing the best they can with what they have at the moment, right? They have their own lived experiences. They have their own way of doing things, and it doesn't mean anything on you. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person or you're doing something wrong. It's just all they know. Same thing with you. So everyone just needs to give each other grace and give each other time. And I think from parents, again, being able to trust your kids, right? And know that when you're giving them opinions or advice, they're going to take what they need and leave the rest. And that's also fine. At least they're taking something and not just leaving everything on the table, you know?
Nice, thank you.
That's great advice for both the daughters and the parents. Well, as we wrap up our show today, we'll leave you with this one last word from our guest, Suzanne Barry, from her documentary, Le Choisi, on her thoughts and conflicting perspective parents convey to their children in the diaspora, as she beautifully puts it into her documentary. Let's take a listen.
I can't stop thinking about how similar we actually all are and how similar our upbringings are, and that we all feel the same pressure, and with age we're gaining confidence and like love for ourselves enough to know that even if people don't understand what we're doing, we're still doing what we're doing to give back to those people that are misunderstanding us. And I think that takes a different level of maturity and like confidence in yourself to just know like it's okay. They don't have to understand. It'll come. And I think that the reason why our parents don't understand is because they came to this country and they want us to have a stable life. You know, they don't have a stable life. Even to today, most of them don't. And they don't want us to struggle the same way they did because they're like, what's the point of coming here? But another thing is, my counter argument to that is like, you came here so that we'd have more opportunities. And what's the point if you're going to put these plate full of opportunities in front of us and then tell us pick two? You know, what's the point? You know, things are not going to go the way that you want. And that even though there are bumps in the road and it doesn't seem clear or secure, that if you know that you're meant to do something, if you know you're chosen to do something, then there'll be a way and you'll find a way. And if you give up, you'll never find it.
That's Suzanne sharing her experience. What's your reaction to that?
I mean, she's completely correct, right? We are here in a land full of opportunities, and that's why our parents brought us here. Right. Allow us to choose, allow us to, you know, see the world, because there's so much to see, you know, there's so much we can do, and don't just limit us, right? The sky is the limit. Yeah. Believe in us in the same way that we're going to believe in you as well.
Right. What about, just briefly, what about when it comes to religion?
Religion.
Because we are in a very secular environment here, different from Africa. What do you say about that?
I would say same thing I said before, finding community, right? Help your kids find community in terms of what religion they follow, help them understand a bit more. If they're curious, let them be curious, right? Help them read whatever they need to read, you know, put them in certain programs or activities that really enhance that understanding. Because once they understand, they can move forward. They can decide when they're older.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much. And that is our show for this week. We want to thank our guest, Mrs. Osato Ogumon, licensed independent clinical social worker here in Washington, D.C., and Mrs. Suzanne Berry for sharing her personal experience and documentary. Be sure to watch Our Voices on the VOA website at voaafrica.com and our YouTube channel, where you can catch up on the latest episode and the world's top news stories. On behalf of everyone here at Our Voices at the Voice of America, thanks